Earlier today, I received a phone call from one of my dealers down in Tallahassee, Florida, a fellow by the name of Joe Wooley. Joe does a little bit of two-cycle work on the side. He actually works for the city of Tallahassee, and he told a little story about his experience with a couple of two-cycle engines and AMSOIL Two Cycle oil and how he used it to relieve the seizure of these two cycle engines, one a weed eater and one a power saw. He used the HP and the Dominator injector oil to achieve the results, and I just thought you might enjoy listening to the conversation we had. I'm sitting here talking with Joe Wooley from Tallahassee, Florida, and he's had a couple of real interesting events using two-cycle engine oil on two-cycle engines that have seized up. Joe, how did it start?
Friend of mine brought me a chainsaw. He told me he was cutting wood with it, and he had cut it off and went to go get some wood that he cut and went to crank it back up, and he thought that pull cord was hung up. So he brought it to me. I took the cover off. There was nothing wrong with the pull cord, and then I noticed that the engine, the flywheel wouldn't turn. It was locked up. So I took the spark plug hole loose and looked down inside there, and the piston was seized about halfway up the cylinder. So I got maybe just about a little measuring cup like what you use for like a kid for their medicine bottle. So maybe 2 or 3 ounces of Dominator I poured down in the spark plug hole and let it sit for about 20 minutes, and then it freed up. I was able to turn it. It was hard at first, but then it freed up. And then the next day when I got home from work, I put it all together and cranked up, third pull, running perfect.
So that was, what kind of an engine, what was that engine on? A weed eater?
It's a Poland chainsaw.
Poland chainsaw, okay. And then you had the same experience again.
Yeah, I had the same experience about 4 years earlier with a little weed eater with another co-worker. But I used the HP injector on that. Just whatever I had open is what I used. So I was saying I used HP injector on that, but it was seized up pretty bad. So it took a couple of days. But when I got it freed loose, and the guy's still using it, I gave him the HP injector on. I said, only use this. And he hasn't had any problems since.
Wow. So it's 4 years later and the thing is still running fine.
Yep, still running fine.
Wow, that's quite a story. That's really interesting. This stuff is, I've heard stories similar to that on 4-cycle engines that have sat around for long periods, and they've, the rings have stuck to the cylinder walls, and people put a little bit of AMSOIL in there and let them sit, and it soaks through, and they can crank the engines over, get them started, and they run fine.
But these were actually running, and they seized up.
Yeah, seized up while running. Yeah, that's even worse, of course. Well, these are great stories. I appreciate you calling me on that, and I'll share it with you and.